Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live Q&A, KP and Associates. Today is really special because we have gathered together several agents from around the world to give us a prediction of 2023. Well, what they think, they're not soothsayers, and they don't have little globes that they look into, but they can tell us what is happening presently and what they feel might happen over 2023. So first of all, I'm going to introduce my team. First of all, we have Carrie Ann, who is our client care. And then we have Michelle Bouquet Campbell, who is a buyer/listing agent.
Hi there.
And then we have Sasha Sazif, who is a buyers and listing agent. So that's our team for today. But at this point, we are going to now go into who is joining us as far as around the world. We have my very, very good friend, George from Portugal. Portugal, but he does all of Portugal from what I
Hi there. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and he has an amazing smile and an amazing family, and if you ever go over to Portugal, I'm going to tell you they are so welcoming, and they give you so much food to eat. And then we have Taryn French from South Africa, which is we actually spoke to her. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm very well, thank you. I do apologize for joining late. I was having some technical challenges, so I'm using my cell phone, so please bear with me.
Better late than never. That's what I have to
Absolutely.
say about that. So then we have Karen, who's from South Africa and Johannesburg, and she's been on our panel before, and she's going to talk about South Africa and all the. I'm gonna run this panel today, and I'm going to be asking the questions, and we'll try and keep control of it. We won't get into any arguments or fights, okay? And Macarena Rose, we have from Belize, as you see, and she also, we've spoken to her in past, and she's going to give us a rundown of Belize, and that's in the Caribbean, if I'm not wrong. And then we have Stephanie from Jamaica, and Stephanie, the two really nice warm islands that are warm right now. We're a little bit cold and chilly here, but so welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us and agreeing to come on our panel and give us some idea of what's going on around the world. So first we're going to start, actually, I'm going to start with Belize, and the reason I'm going to start with Belize is because the market there is very good, and Macarena will explain why. But first, I'm going to just give you a little bit of foundation, and the foundation is, don't forget, we're dealing with different currencies, we're dealing with different interest rates and mortgage rates, and we're dealing with different governments. So everybody has their own their own individual situations as far as what I have just said. So I'm going to just start with Belize and say, Macarena, and say, okay, so talk to me about your currency. What is your currency?
Okay, so we actually have the Belize dollar, and the Belize dollar is pegged to the US dollar. So it's easy to convert 2 to 1. So, 10 Belize dollars is 5 US dollars. Most people are able to convert into US dollars depending what currency there is, in their home country. So it makes it very easy for people to figure out what they're buying and what they're paying.
Okay. And so what is your mortgage rates right now? What are they sitting at? Were they also taken up and pushed up this past year to, as we were told, to help the economy? I'm laughing.
We do get, that's okay. You're adorable. And we do get told that in Belize, everybody, I hope you're sitting down. We don't do a lot of mortgages. And if you do, and I don't really work with clients that want this, and this is why, it's 50% down, 5-year balloon, 8 to 12% interest. I like people, if they're going to put 50% down, I'd rather help them find something 50% down and buy that whole in cash and don't get a mortgage, because everything I'm going to help save people and make a great investment is lost in that interest rate. So that is one of the challenges doing business in Belize, is not having proper or easily to acquire mortgages at a reasonable rate, right? So
and having cash in hand.
you have to have cash in hand. So of course we've got to find stuff that makes really good sense, which we can get into of what people are buying and why they're buying is property that makes them money.
Yeah.
Who
And
doesn't want that?
all right, so we're going to go to Taryn French in Johannesburg. I'm going to ask the same question. What is your currency?
So South African rands, which I believe at the moment is about 16 rand to the dollar. So not great.
What are your mortgage rates right now?
The lending rate at the moment, I think, is just under 11, predicted to go up quite a bit in the next few months as well. We're predicting in the next 6 months, they'll probably go up to about 13, which is a huge difference from a year ago where it was sitting at about 7. So that's obviously caused a lot of change in the market.
So has this lessened your supply, or has it heightened your supply of housing, of available housing in Johannesburg?
I don't think it's changed the supply so much. Sellers are still readily selling. The difference now is that affordability has gone down a lot. So there was a stage where there were so many new home first time home buyers that could afford their mortgages, whereas before they couldn't. And now we're getting to a point where with the interest rate rising, they can't really afford their homes anymore. So there is still stock on the market, but sellers are seemingly unreasonable with their prices. They haven't sort of adjusted to the new market. Buyers' affordability is lower, so there's fewer buyers in the market. And so stock is really sitting for quite a while. Sellers are pricing a bit high, and that's sort of causing the market to move very, very slowly.
Yeah. So let's go to George. And George, Portugal. And, we all know that the euro is in Portugal, and it's, is it still about equal to the American dollar?
Well, hello everybody, and thank you, Karen, for remembering us in this part of the world. So it's a pleasure to be with you, with all of you. So indeed, in the past, we had the euro about 20% or 15% cheaper than the dollar. But in the past months, we had this strengthness of the dollar. So we even had €1 equals to $1 a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now the process is slowly starting to be the reverse. So the US is having strength, and the euro is losing some strength. So we have $1.92, something like that, niner euros. Regarding the interest rates, we had this. So you asked me, the main question of this conference is what's the future like? And I think all of us can answer correctly without any doubt. We don't know. We don't have any doubts that we don't know. Because in the recent times, we had negative interest rates in the housing market. Negative Euribor.
Minus. It was
0.8. We got to a point that with the Euribor was minus 0.8. So we even got to some cases, well, not the majority, but a few credits, they were not paying interest. They were paying the monthly fees would be full capital. They were just paying off the capital, the principal. And this November, it shifted. So it became again to the 0, and now it's in 3%, the Euribor. So we did not have as many increases as the US had. I think they were 5 increases and very
Yeah.
large increases.
Yeah.
In Portugal, I believe we had 3 or 4, and on the 0.5 level, 0.75, not above that, but still too strong for us. So is it a good price for the money to pay? Well, 3% plus the margin of the bank, well, 4%, 5-ish%. It's cheap money when compared to other markets.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
it's not what we are used to anymore. So the market is a little bit, we're gonna die, everything is the end of the world. So we have this challenge here.
There's an explanation for everything though, George.
Yeah.
Before you go on with your challenge, let me talk to Stephanie about Jamaica. And then we'll go on to the next question and we'll talk about the challenges. So Stephanie, first question is the currency.
Oh yes, hi Karen. So oh boy, I am sitting here and I'm so jealous of South Africa and Belize and even George over there in Portugal, because we are also pegged to the US dollars and it is 155 Jamaican dollars to 1 US. That's just really crazy. And what is even worse is that there is really no stability. So our rates fluctuate. We find a fluctuation occurring between 150 to 155 dollars at this time. So yeah, we're really jealous.
So did your mortgage, along with the prime interest rate, did your mortgage rates increase over the year?
Absolutely. We have moved from approximately 6.5% and we are now in the low 8 point something to some extent. So yes, the mortgage rates have moved. What we find interesting though in Jamaica is that in spite of all of this movement, there is a very high demand and take up for properties here on the island. So mortgages are a big part of those purchases. I would perhaps, I'm no expert at it, but I would perhaps say up to about 65% of all home purchases are through mortgages. So it's a significant amount, but there is a high demand, and currently construction is at an all-time high. There's just booming. I mean, new construction is going up all over the island right now.
I heard that of the islands and I heard that things were just hopping in even Costa Rica and all of the islands. They were just, there was a huge influx of desirability and construction also. Is construction high in Belize also, Macarena? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I just muted people just because there was a little bit of feedback. So when you, just remember to unmute yourself when you're called upon.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. So there is a lot of construction going on currently in Belize. A lot of people decided to do developments during the COVID when it first started. They figured it was a great time to start building. So we're seeing a lot of that inventory actually come into the market currently. What's being developed and built right now would be projects like another new Marriott and some other properties that are vacation rentals, because that's the strength of our market, is the vacation rental industry.
So to all of you, how is Airbnb doing in regard to vacant homes or investment properties? Because I know when I was in Portugal, it was a hot topic. And everybody was, gravitating towards renting their house out or a portion of their house to an Airbnb. So is this going on worldwide? And let's go to Stephanie first. Carrie Ann.
Okay. Sorry, I had to unmute my mic. Yes, so Airbnb is still a hot topic here in Jamaica, but it's a mixed bag. If you ask me, we back in the pandemic, I would say over the last 2 years, there was significant interest. Everyone wanted to rent their homes. Everyone was purchasing investment properties, apartments, condos, you name it what, to put on Airbnb. But I would say in the last couple of months, I'm seeing almost a resentment of Airbnb customers. Persons are concerned that, strangers are coming into these new developments. They're not behaving properly. There's a concern for crime as well. Who are these persons who are mixing and mingling with, normal residents? And so we find that there is a cooling off, but in spite of that, there is still significant interest. So every day I am still getting persons requesting to purchase properties that they can use solely for the purposes of Airbnb.
Yeah. Taryn, what do you think? What is your opinion of that?
So I find that in Johannesburg, Airbnb is not a huge thing. It's much bigger, much more popular down in the coastal provinces. So Cape Town, Durban, those sort of areas, there's a lot more Airbnb happening. I don't come across much of it in Johannesburg. And just like Stephanie said now, a lot of the places here, your sectional scheme units and what have you, the body corporates, the owners in those places don't want Airbnb in the complexes, in the sectional schemes, because of the security risks and people not behaving. So it does make it more difficult as an investor to buy units like that for Airbnb in a lot of places.
Yeah, and so what they're stipulating in new construction condominium bylaws and rules and regulations, what they're stipulating is that you cannot rent your apartment to a periodic sort. It has to be a long term, a 1 year term, and not a 1 week term. And so that's what they're stipulating in the bylaws in any new construction condominium situation. So I think that's a good thing. Actually, I think it's a good thing for all the buyers, but you can still invest and rent annually and do that. So, George, what do you, I know Airbnb is really popular in Portugal. So talk to me about that. And is it still as popular as when I was there in October?
I'm so proud to say yes, and it's even more now. I don't know what happened. We are having more tourists now than before, just before COVID. So what we expected to take 10 years, 5 years to recover has taken 1 year and nothing else. Okay, so we are, and also proud to say that Portugal has won best golf country in the world, best church tourism in the world. Lisbon, the best conference facilities in the world, the best training, whatever. Porto, where I live, where I was born, has just won best of the world, best of Europe, best of this, best of that, best weekend, Europe-wise and worldwide. So definitely we see our, even now the airport, our Porto airport was classified as one of the 10 best in Europe as well. So there's such a huge demand. If you go downtown, you see what I saw in Paris and in London a few years ago, where I still see it. But I see that in my hometown now. I look around, and from the 5 people around me, I would say that 60% of those 6 are foreigners speaking foreign languages, coming from SA, from China, Chinese many, from Canada, from the US. So this attracts a good business for us, which is investors trying to get old things and new things, and the old things they convert it into Airbnb and long-term leases to foreigners. But we have gotten to a point that this is not only a good thing, but also a bad thing, because we're having too much tourism, meaning that the houses are becoming so expensive that Portuguese and the old people that actually live there are expelled. Well, I shouldn't say this in the real estate conference, but they have to, because they can't afford their location, so they have to move out. And this has created the City Hall of Porto Velho is going to forbid new Airbnb licenses. So we got into this point.
Yeah. So in Belize, is it the same sort of thing in regard to Airbnb or because, and I have to say the tourist industry, I've never seen so many people traveling around the world. It's not only Portugal, it's Johannesburg, it's Jamaica, it's Belize, it's everywhere around the world. People are spending money on travel. And where's the money coming from? But we should not even ask that, should we?
It's revenge traveling. I've seen I've read it. Revenge traveling.
So we just go to our government and say, please lend us some money. We want to go. But Macarena, Airbnbs, popular, not popular?
Thank you. Very popular. I don't know if you could read my lips, but Airbnb has really, really changed our business so much in Belize, and it's a very welcome thing. So most of our complexes, we do not have 21-story buildings. We have a 4 and 5 story limit. So if you have a condo on the island, majority of them are open to being able to have vacation rentals on them. And something that I love is it's only one management company is allowed per condominium complex. So you always have cohesivity. We find that to be a very good thing. So only one management company. So they know who's coming and going, and who's doing the the VRBO or Airbnb. It doesn't matter. It has to go through one company. That's what our government requires, and it was a very smart decision.
Very smart.
And so then, the people that live there's people that live full time too in Belize. When I moved over almost 19 years ago, I knew that I wanted to live in the country, right? Not go back and forth. But many people love knowing that they can come in for a week or two and dive in the Barrier Reef or, hang out, in the jungle areas and do those kind of things and write it off their taxes and yet have a terrific also income in the meantime. So we do find it to be a very consistent, stable investment option for clients to look at.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're getting to a close here because we've been on for 30 minutes and we can talk on and on and on. But I'm going to ask the big question. And before I go any further, Michelle and Sasha and Carrie Ann, have you got any questions of our panelists today? You're muting, you're on mute. Everybody's on mute. So.
Hi everyone, it's Michelle here. I don't have any questions, but it's just so fun and so amazing to have everyone here in one spot, because it's, in a time where, technology is our friend, sometimes can kind of, internet and all of that can sometimes drop, but it's so great that, we're all able to be together and talk about something that we're also passionate about. So thank you for being here today.
Sasha, do you have any questions?
Hi, everyone. Just want to say thank you for joining us today. I currently don't have any questions, but I loved hearing all the input that you guys have shared today. It's really nice to hear from different parts of the world and what's going on in real estate in different areas.
What is so interesting is to see the difference of mortgage rates from country to country. I'm amazed, and the different rules and regulations that they have in regard to purchasing, and for instance, Belize 50% down, and Jamaica is, I don't know if there's a stipulated percentage down as far as when you buy a house. Stephanie, is there?
Yes, there is. If you're a resident, you pay anywhere between 5 to 10% as down. If you're a foreigner, they ask for 20% down, but that's simply it. And our mortgage lending periods are very good. They can go anywhere from say 25 years up to maybe about 35 years, depending on. So it's quite easy as long as your income supports it and allow it. it's quite
Yeah.
easy for you to get a mortgage here on the island.
Oh, great. So we can all move
Yeah.
to Jamaica and be,
And there are no special taxes for foreigners that are coming in. And Jamaica is one big
All
melting pot. It really is a melting pot, and we embrace our foreigners. So, you know, we're happy when, you know, people are here living amongst us.
that's fantastic. So the big question I have for all of you is, and I'll go one by one, what is your prediction for 2023? Are the prices going to go lower? And is the market going to stabilize? Are we going to have a normal market for the rest of the year as we are having now? Because I call this a normal market. I've been in the business for 35 plus years, and I've seen interest rates in Canada. Right now, our interest rates went from 1.5 right up to 6.25, and they're talking about raising the prime rate again to by the end of January. But and I've seen 18%. I've seen here in Canada, I've seen 12%. When I had my first house, I was at 12%. So I'm saying that this to us is a normal market, and we're handling it very, very well because we still have lots of buyers, and we don't have as much supply. We still are at the low end of supply, but I think that that's going to change in the springtime. I think 2023 is going to be an excellent year. It's going to make us work harder. and you know, be more in touch with our clients as far as service and what have you. But I think that 2023 in Canada is going to be a damn good year. So let's start with George. What do you think 2023 is going to be? Not only Portugal, but you're in touch. You have hands-on with all of Europe. So what do you think what is going to happen to the market in Europe?
That's the $1 billion question. But I'm quite optimistic. You see, indeed, we have TV and social media and media all over Europe saying it's the end of the world. Inflation.
Well, CNN is big, right?
Yeah. But specifically in Portugal, the other markets, I can only hear the ripple effects. I don't know directly, okay? But over here, what we see is, again, talking about the supply. We don't have enough supply of new ones. And the supply, the construction materials are getting more and more expensive by the day. For instance, in iron and then a few other raw materials, it's almost by the day. So if you have a few supply and if you have increased costs of construction, you cannot decrease the prices. Therefore, we have settled on that. On the other hand, we have the tourists, the foreigners coming from, 70% of all buyers, foreign buyers in Portugal are Americans because of the dollar.
That's big for Portugal, and that's big for any parts of Europe. Yeah.
And I'm expecting to change that for Canadians anytime soon.
The Canadians can't afford the euro.
It's up to you to change that. But at least to make a small change in the Canadian rate. But to be honest, we have so many influx of, including, please understand it, this is true, Ukrainians that, not now, but in the beginning of the war, they, of course, high profile Ukrainians would come here and buy houses. We even have incentives for the Ukrainian newcomers, etc. Okay, so we have the Chinese, we have the British, not anymore because of the Brexit. They don't, now it's a foreign country, right? From the UK. Before it was almost the same country, the country they call Europe. Now now we don't have so many Brits anymore, or French. So we have so many people on the upper side of the segment, on the upper segment, to say better. And of course the lower segment, they don't buy with, they rent. So we only have the middle segment, which probably we will have some reduction. Definitely we will have some reduction. But I don't expect too much reduction, to be honest. I'm
No,
quite happy. And I understand that 2023 is going to be so many question marks everywhere, so many new challenges to learn, but definitely it's going to be a good year.
well, I think one of the things that comes into play here is technology, and technology has definitely stepped in and is speeding up all changes that occur, whether it whether it be the way we do business, or even the information that is sent out to people in a minute,
Correct.
And so this affects people quickly, whereas in other times when we didn't have that, situations would happen slowly, and the increase and the decrease and what have you would happen slowly. So now, Macarena, what do you think that 2023 is going to bring? So, George mentioned nationalities coming into the country and buying. So what do you see as far as nationalities? Delete, can you, unmute.
There we go. We have similar to what Stephanie said, a melting pot of people from all over the world. We get predominantly, it's from the North Americas. It's obviously Canada and the United States, because the ease of being able to get to, Belize, of course. And from Europe, it's usually people, we used to be British Honduras, people from England, a lot of German. George, you need to send us some people from Portugal. We all love referrals, right? And I always am very happy when it's
go myself?
Williams referral. Love it. So
This is good.
Yeah. So what I think really that's important to know is that, we all have buyers and we all have clients, and we're not always aware that they're buying in other countries. So this is great that you're doing this, Karen, to be able to remind people that international real estate, we all have that ability, and you have contacts all over the world, for goodness sake. So good for you. And that's what, that's how we grow our businesses and help the right people, right? So do I think our market's going to be strong? We know that we've been planning and preparing for the shift. I'm sure you all have been doing the same thing. And we're already excited to see what the agents have been doing successfully December and January. We have closings already and contracts being written already in January. And we're just in the start of it, right?
Yeah.
So as long as we keep telling people about that, we have these opportunities all over the world and we can help them. I think 2023 is going to be fantastic. Like you said, Karen, what'd you say? A darn good 2023. I'm going to go with that because positive always wins.
And I think we have to understand that the internet, also technology, has brought us together closer, that people, instead of buying a house down the street, they can also buy a house in Portugal, or they can buy a house in South Africa, and they can, this is why the information that we're trying to get across to people. We have offices, by the way, all around the world in regard to Saudi Arabia, Dubai. I mean, all of these offices are there for people to inquire and to touch base with and ask questions of. So, Stephanie, prediction. What are you predicting for 2023? And what is your nationality that do? So is it more of the people that live on the island that buy, or is it international, more of international?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. Well, wow. Let's see where to start. So Jamaica, our motto is out of many, one people. So we are a mix of Indians, Chinese, Africans, and Europeans. So we are actually getting,
right?
I'm sorry?
Portuguese.
No, not many Portuguese. I'm sorry. We do have a few Germans, though. So
Can't win them all, George. Can't win them all.
Yes, and some Portuguese, George.
Uh,
So,
we are
so
only
we
10
do have,
million, and we're going to find Jamaica very soon, I promise.
please do. So we do have a large diaspora of persons, and these are Jamaicans who have implanted themselves all over the world, and they're purchasing back here on the island and reinvesting, and they're also encouraging their friends and new persons that they meet everywhere they go in the world to come back and buy. So we're seeing a lot of demands for villa type style homes, you know, your 8 bedrooms, your 10 bedrooms, where you can bring a small party of persons to the island to vacate. And so we are having that. What is also interesting that is happening is because of our geographic position in the Caribbean and where we lie between the Americas and Europe and so on, we are under special consideration as an economic zone country. So what we are seeing is an uptake in commercial build out that is also happening, a great significant, almost a rush to build out warehouses and large BPO, which is the business outsourcing places for work, and office spaces as well. So there is a significant increase in that. So where we find that residential home buyers are a little bit more choosy, you know that the interest rates have gone up and they're, you know, spending a little bit more time trying to figure out which home to buy. We are balanced out nicely by that high demand for commercial real estate. So for 2023, I think it's going to be a very interesting year for Jamaica. Another thing for Jamaica is that, you know, as Jamaicans, we say that it is not a real place. And as real estate is considered, it really is not a real place, because Jamaican sellers never lower their prices. You know, they would rather take that property off the market, wait a couple months, and then relist it again. But you're not going to find prices decreasing and, you know, to the point where, you know, you pretty much give it away. It's not happening here on the island. It has never happened historically, and it will never happen because of, I guess, if you have demand, and you know, you're always going to have that situation. Yeah. So it's a good outlook.
It's not like my business where every 30 days I go in and say, well, we need to bring the price down. And they look at us and say, okay, show us the stats, and we do the stats all over again, and then we bring the price down. And hopefully,
oh, no.
You don't do that there, do you?
No, Jamaican sellers will keep it there for 2 years, 2 years, and they are not lowering their price. So in the truest sense of the word, we are really just not subscribing to the norms in the real estate
But
industry.
is that because they know that there's going to be international buyers possibly coming, and they'll pay basically anything for a house in Jamaica?
No, well, that too, but also because there really is just a big demand. So our island is completely surrounded by water. So there are beaches entirely around the island. And what I have seen in the last year, in particular since the COVID, is that we have a belt which we refer to as the tourist belt. It stretches from an area in St. Anne all the way to Negril Point, which is like a quarter of a side of the island, if you will, you know, consider that. And what I'm seeing now is a significant interest in areas where there was none before, on the other side of the island, where the beaches are not so great, but because it's water, there is a significant interest. So there is always high, very, very high demand here on the islands.
All right, so Terry, what can you tell us about Johannesburg, and who are your buyers? So I have a cousin in Johannesburg, and he used to work in the gold mines. He used to be, you know, involved in the gold mines, but they have since closed that issue. And so he just lives there in Johannesburg in a gated community, actually. But he's British. He comes from British origin. So I'm assuming that you have a lot of British people in Johannesburg, but I shouldn't assume. So tell us about that.
I personally haven't worked with a lot of foreign buyers. I don't come across many. I haven't seen many come through our market center. If I do deal with foreign buyers, it's usually our close neighbors. So I've dealt with a lot of Zimbabwean clients and that sort of thing. But no, I haven't dealt with many Americans or Europeans or buying into South Africa. I'm not entirely sure why. I think a lot more of that happens down in Cape Town and those sorts of areas by the coast, but not so much Johannesburg from my experience.
What is your prediction for 2023?
Well, like George said, if we could all have a crystal ball, geez.
Our clients think that we have crystal balls, don't they? They say,
oh, this question makes me like hyperventilate because so I think what's going to happen is unlike Stephanie, you're very lucky. Well, I don't know if you're lucky or not that sellers don't drop their prices. It's not the same here. Karen, I have to do the same as you. Guys, the market's changed, drop your price. I try to price it ahead of the market, but I find that the prices are going down so quickly at the moment that sellers have unrealistic expectations. So they're either going to have to drop prices, which they're doing anyway. And with the decrease of buyers in the market, they're having to. So I'm seeing prices drop. I think stock is going to drop too. So I think it's just going to be slow. And I think this is going to separate agents who really, really work for their money and run this as a business from those who perhaps don't do the same.
There's our crystal ball. Anyway, well, I want to thank you, all of you, for coming onto our panel, and we love doing this, and we love sharing information to our George, for sure.
I have a question for you. I just read that the Canada government has forbidden for foreigners to buy real estate if they don't live there, for investment real estate. How is that affecting your business?
Well, you see, they just are doing things that are very interesting, because they're going to charge a foreign tax now to people that are not citizens of. But I think there's a lot of countries who have foreign tax. A lot of the bigger countries have foreign tax because, and I think it's because we have lack of housing, George, and we need. And this is what the stats are that have come out. We need 100,000 houses built in the next year to keep up with the growth of population and desirability of housing, because we can never stop. We will always have a buyer. We will always have a seller. And
so it won't affect your business.
No, it won't. Okay. I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to be a shock to a lot of people, because there is a lot of vacant houses out there, and they have come up with a vacant tax. But there's a lot. Don't tell anybody this, but there's a lot of loopholes that some of my clients are have come up with. But I think the government is trying to, and good question, because our government is trying to bring the housing prices down so that the buyers can afford it. The average buyer, the new buyer, first-time buyer can afford it. And yet they can, because in my day, when we had them at 5 or 6 or 7%, there was no problem. The prices were low, and they bought the houses. So you just have to eat macaroni and cheese for a few years, and then it's part and parcel. You stop going to Whole Foods and buying expensive food. It's all about budgeting yourself, and whether you want to buy a house or spend money in a ridiculous manner. However, time is up. We all have to go, but I want to thank you. And I want to tell you a stat that we have is that we have 220,000 agents around the world, and it keeps growing. And we still haven't opened that office in Vienna yet, in Austria. So, George, you and I are going to do that, aren't we? So at
You're
this
going to
point,
do that, and I'm going to assist you.
thank you very, very much for joining us. And let's do this again this time next year, because I'd love to hear the past and the future again. So thank you very, very much. And everybody, great success in 2023. Have a really, really nice year.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Huge
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Bye.
I really enjoyed the panel. Thank you. Have